Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Contract Lifecycle Management Integration with Supply Chain Management Tech Talk. My name is Mathieu Benes, and I will be moderating this session. We have a number of presenters as well as member of engineering teams and iCertis. Introducing the presenter, in addition to myself, we have Shriram Sivasankara, Senior Product Manager, Vishal Arkwal, Senior Engineer Manager, Amar Kumar, Senior Fast Track Solution Architect, and Vivek Udantrao, Senior Product Manager from iCertis. All right, now that we have wrapped up the introductions, let's dive into today's Tech Talk agenda. We kick these things off with an overview of the CLM integration, then explore how CLM fits into our business process. After that, we'll focus our specific partnership with iCertis and on the integration framework with an example of our first-party integration. We'll also share some handy resources and wrap up with the Q&A sessions. Let's get started. Over to you, Shriram.
Thanks, Matthew. Hello, everyone. I'm Shriram Sivasankaran, Senior Product Manager in Microsoft Dynamics 365 SCM. I handle the procurement and sourcing area path. Feel free to reach out to me in LinkedIn. Let me first give you an overview of this feature, CLM integration with Microsoft Dynamics 365 SCM. The source-to-pay process is a critical aspect of modern enterprise resource planning. It describes the entire process of purchasing goods or services from a supplier and paying for them by completing all the related operations in a structured, efficient, and transparent way. In Microsoft Dynamics 365 SCM, we desire to improve the source-to-pay process coverage. As a result, we identified Contract Lifecycle Management, CLM, is an important aspect of the source-to-pay process and wanted to address the gap in our product portfolio through third-party CLM integration. By enabling this third-party CLM integration feature, organizations can improve their overall supply chain performance and deliver greater value to their vendors and customers. In this Tech Talk, we will describe in detail about the concepts and related processes to manage the contracts in Dynamics 365 SCM using a third-party CLM application. In Microsoft Dynamics 365, we teamed up in a strategic partnership with the leading third-party CLM solution provider, iCertis. With this partnership, Microsoft Dynamics 365 SCM offers a seamless source-to-contract workflow that provides an embedded experience. This integration offers real-time visibility of business processes, managing compliance and associated risk, improve vendor relationships through faster and more accurate information, boosting day-to-day business operations, and providing deep insights on contract intelligence to meet the vendor and customer demands. This partnership led SCM users to take advantage of the robust CLM capabilities of iCertis along with Dynamics 365 SCM to create and manage procurement contracts. Currently, this third-party CLM integration feature is in public preview. The scope of this feature is when you enable and configure the integration with an external CLM solution like iCertis, the following contract flows are enhanced in Dynamics 365 SCM: non-disclosure agreement and purchase agreement. We are also planning to extend this capability across other business process areas in Dynamics 365 SCM like trade agreements, request for quotation, royalty agreements, and others. This integration support for more advanced CLM processes such as contract creation, redlining, negotiation, signing off, amendment, and termination. In this way, it reduces the time and resources that are required to manage the procurement contracts. By enabling this integration feature, it will provide a comprehensive end-to-end contract management capabilities that are more aligned with the organizational operations and priorities. In this Tech Talk, we will also understand specific use cases related to NDA and purchase agreement in Dynamics 365 SCM. With this, I will hand over to Amar to explain in detail about business process areas covered. Over to you, Amar.
Thanks, Shriram. Hello, everyone. I am Amar. Please feel free to reach using the contact details on this slide. Now, let me take you through the business process that is getting unlocked as part of this capability. In this section, we'll see how source-to-pay business process area is getting expanded with Contract Lifecycle Management integration capability. Let's start with a quick overview of source-to-pay business area. The source-to-pay business process involves sourcing, procuring, and paying for goods and services from external sources. The process aims to optimize efficiency, accuracy, and transparency of the sourcing and procurement cycle, improving cash flow and vendor relationship. Source to pay includes develop procurement and sourcing strategy, manage supplier relationships, source and contract goods and services, procure goods and services, receive material and services, manage accounts payable, and finally, analyze procurement and sourcing. Our latest investment in source to pay process area is the integration of contract lifecycle management. This enhancement strengthens our source to pay capability by enabling platform level collaboration with external CLM applications to manage vendor contract. Instead of building from scratch, we leverage integration with third-party contract lifecycle management applications. With the available framework, supply chain management can be seamlessly integrated with external CLM applications to manage vendor contracts. Let's explore the scope of this solution and how it facilitates the source to pay process. In Dynamics 365 supply chain management and other Dynamics 365 apps, we have traditionally focused on execution of contracts such as purchase agreement, rebate agreement, brokerage agreement, and regular purchase order. With the integration of CLM, we now support the entire lifecycle of contract management. This new capability, part of source to pay process area, brings two flow. Starting with purchase agreement flow, while we have purchase agreements in Dynamics 365 supply chain management, they only capture transactional data such as period of agreement, product, price, and quantity. A purchase agreement is backed by a contract between the organization and its supplier. Maintaining this contract involves multiple steps, including contract authoring, negotiation, legal approvals, and signing by the appropriate signatories. External third-party applications specialize in contract lifecycle management. In this purchase agreement flow, while the purchase agreement is managed in Dynamics 365, the contract is managed in a CRM application. The necessary integration between two applications is facilitated through the introduction of this new feature. We see that contracts are initiated and then follow the life cycle of contract authoring, where procurement contracts are created, new lines are added and validated. The contract then goes through negotiation, which involves assembly and redlining. Then legal review happens and it is sent for approval. Once complete, the contract is signed by the right stakeholders, triggering the creation and revision of purchase agreement. And after this, the source to pay cycle follows. If needed, an amendment can be requested later to include new details in the contract. In this flow, the details in this block are managed in Dynamics 365 supply chain management, and the process of contract authoring, approval, and signing is managed in external contract lifecycle management solution. The integration between applications ensures that relevant master data is synced between the applications and that contract information flows seamlessly between them. This integration will be discussed later in the presentation by Rishabh and Matthew. Now talking about NDA flow, keeps the contracts without a direct downstream impact on supply chain transaction. For example, consider a contract created to protect confidentiality between contracting parties. In this kind of contract, you don't have any implication on supply chain transactions. While it is important to tag the supplier with the right contract in supply chain management, each contract will not impact supply chain transactions. The process of contract authoring in CLM application remains similar, but unlike the purchase agreement flow, there is no implication on supply chain transactions. In this flow, contracts are initiated against a supplier in Dynamics 365 supply chain management, and the record of contract remains available in Dynamics 365. Just like the purchase agreement flow, amendments can be initiated in Dynamics 365. Contract authoring is starting with creation of NDA, adding supporting documents, and signing the contract is managed in the CLM solution, and the record of contract is tagged with supplier in Dynamics 365 supply chain management. In the following section of this talk, we'll see how these flows work through examples shared by Matthew using a sample PowerX solution, and subsequently by Vivek, who will cover how iCertis integrates with Dynamics 365. Now I'll hand it over to Vivek, who will be covering the demo of integrated purchase agreement flow between supply chain management and iCertis CLM. Over to you, Vivek.
Thank you, Amar. Hello, everyone. I'm Vivek Gudatrao, Senior Product Manager at iCertis. I take care of ICI Core platform and its integration with the Dynamics 365 SCM. Thank you, Amar and Shriram, for setting up the context here. Now I will walk all of you through the iCertis capabilities and its integration with Dynamics 365 as a demonstration. So let's understand why iCertis. iCertis Contract Intelligence, as we call it as ICI, offers end-to-end contracting solutions, right from contract request to author the contract using the pre-configured template, having the contract reviewed internally with different stakeholders, doing the negotiations and redlining with your counterparty, and then subsequently going for deviation approval as well as the business approvals. Once the contract is approved, you can send it out for signatures using e-signs and manual signature as well. You can also manage your executed contracts by renewing them, amending, as well as terminating them, right? ICI is born and built on Microsoft Azure cloud platform, which is the most trusted and secure cloud platform. Provides a configurable solution where you can manage all your contracting needs like buy-side contract, sell-side contract, and even the corporate agreements. We have empowered this process with iCertis Copilots, which are risk assessment copilot as well as interactive assessment copilot, which inherently runs on Explore AI services, having 3 core pillars as Azure Open AI Service, iCertis Proprietary AI, and the data. We have also enhanced this capability with the partnership with proprietary LLMs such as Llama and Harvey, especially to identify the risk. We also offer business applications such as obligations and rebate management to enhance the business performance by deriving value out of the contract. In order to provide quick time to value, we also have business verticals, which comes with a pre-configured solution specific to the industry such as healthcare, retail, etc. ICI platform supports open integration framework with which we have achieved certified integration with leading ERP such as Microsoft Dynamics, SAP, Salesforce. We also offer the out-of-the-box adapter to integrate the e-sign or e-signature providers such as Adobe. Using the application lifecycle management, we have empowered our partner ecosystem to do a custom technical configuration in order to meet specific business needs of their customer. With this, let's get into the demo. So for the demo, I have a simple use case here. Contoso Entertainment System is planning to set up a new office as an innovation hub for which they need to procure some state-of-the-art sound systems. Vivek, I'm acting here as a purchase manager. I'm responsible for procuring 50 high-end speakers from Fabricam Electronics, who's the vendor here. I will work with Ruby to get these speakers procured over 1 year period. Okay. In order to execute this business scenario, the purchase manager will start from Dynamics 365. He will create a contract in ICI using a pre-configured template. Once the contract is authored, I will be sending out the contract for Ruby to who will redline this contract. Once Ruby sends the revised redline copy back, I will run a risk assessment copilot in order to identify if there are any risks since Ruby has redlined the contract. If there are any risks found, I'll mitigate that risk, and then subsequently I can send the agreement out for approval. iCertis approval workflow is fairly configurable. You can send it in parallel in sequence to an individual, to a group. You can also replicate your approval hierarchy, which could be based on your organization or on grant of authority, or etc. Once the contract is approved, I'll send it out for signatures. Here we have configured the e-sign provider as Adobe. So both the signatory, Ruby and John, will sign the contract in Adobe, and that will execute the contract in ICI. And it will automatically create an effective purchase agreement in Dynamics 365. Okay, so let's get into the demo now. So here you can see I'm logged into Contoso Entertainment as a purchase manager. I'll go to the procurement and sourcing as a menu option. There is a new menu called as all contracts, which will house all the contracts that have been created from a CLM system. As a purchase manager, I'll see if any of these contracts suffice my need at hand. Can have a quick look at all the contracts which are present in the system. And if any of the contract is not helpful for me, I can go ahead and create a new contract. I can edit an existing contract. I can also amend a contract and have a quick look at the purchase agreement. Let's go ahead and create a new contract. So here you can see we have Indian procurement. I'll select the procurement. As I said, we'll draft it on own paper, which is a configured template. And here you'll find a configurable form, which is very well supported with the master data integration. We have around 20 odd master data which have been integrated out of the box. And the data is coming in from Dynamics into ICI. Okay. I'll continue to fill in the form, and few of the information that you will find is pre-populated. Here you can see the legal entity got pre-populated since we have already selected. As we are procuring speakers from Fabricam, I'll select the vendor as Fabricam Electronics. And since it's a quantity procurement, it's a product quantity commitment. Fill in the rest of the details. Here. All of these dropdowns are these master data supported from Dynamics. So here, few of the metadata that you find are local to the agreement, like the governing law. As I said, we support electronics as well as wet signature. User can also decide whether which signatory will sign first. So that will also be decided on the fly here by the contract manager. Based on the data, the system will propose a template, and I can have a quick look at the template and go ahead in drafting the contract. So with that, this is how the agreement will look like in ICI. We have different facets here. We maintain the versions of the agreement, the audit trail as history. We also have supporting document. If you have any supporting document as quote or any term sheet that you want to attach and keep it as a repository along with your contract, you can just simply drag and drop it here. And since we want to procure speakers, I'll add the line here. So here I'm demonstrating adding a line manually. You can also upload it in bulk. And now I'm keeping the unit price blank here to show, how we are validating the data which that is keyed in on ICI side if it is in compliant with Dynamics requirements. So here you can see the system is not allowing me to add the line because there is no unit price keyed in. So this validation is working as a synchronous validation. Now that the line is successfully added, let's go ahead and validate the header as well. Okay, so I'm back onto the header now. And here you will find a validation status as pending. Let's start the validation of the header data. Now the validation is in progress. And once the validation is completed, you will find the status change to validation successful, allowing user to do subsequent actions here. So now I will assemble the contract. Since the authoring is completed, I want to look at how the contract looks like before I ship it out to my vendor. So I'll download the contract. And now you can see whatever the information that was keyed on the form appears here along with different clauses. Right. So now that the contract is okay, I'll send it out to the vendor, Ruby. I'll select Ruby here and send the contract out. So now you'll see the status changing from draft to review pending from Ruby. Ruby, who's the vendor, will get an email notification from the system. In the email, she'll find a one-time passcode using which she will be able to access the agreement document. So now, Ruby will download the contract in order to have a look at the baseline contract. And of course, she will start making the changes from her side. And as part of change here, she is deleting the performance data clause. She is changing the termination notice period from 3 months to 5 months. And she's also changing the governing law of this contract from Alabama to Delaware. Since Ruby is done with all her red lines or changes, she will save this red line document locally on her desktop. And then she will upload the red line document here on this page. Once she's through with uploading of this red line document, me as a purchase manager, I'll be notified by an email notification as well as the status of the agreement will change from review pending to draft. Let's have a look. So as a purchase manager, I want to have a look at what all red lines that Ruby has done, and I can compare the version that has gone out to Ruby and what has come from Ruby. So here you can see there are a couple of changes that she did on the clauses. I also want to have a look at what metadata that she has changed, so I can go ahead and see all the changes. So she changed two metadata: governing law and termination notice. So since the contract has come from the vendor, I'll run the risk assessment co-pilot here. I'll try and find out, what are risks that are in this contract. So we have three types of risks: operational risk, financial risk, and regulatory risk. So here you can see since she changed the termination notice, there is no termination for convenience clause included, and hence there is operational risk. So in order to mitigate this risk, what I will do as contract manager, I will download this agreement version. And then I will open it in Word add-in. We have iCertis Experience for Word. This plugin, you can download it from Microsoft Store. And now you can see the system has intelligently identified that this contract was generated out of ICI. And I'm here on the right-hand side, you can see I'm accessing the clause library. These are all the clauses that are sitting in the clause library. And I want to add the termination for convenience clause here to reduce the risk. So I'm selecting a placeholder and I'm adding the clause here from the clause library. So now you can see the clause is added to the agreement. I can upload it directly from the plugin. I don't have to go to the ICI agreement page and upload this document. We can add notes along with the new versions that we are uploading. Okay. So assuming that the risk is mitigated, let's go ahead and see, if the Copilot identifies that and shows us the latest risk parameters. So here you can see now the system has identified the clause and also the operational risk score has gone down. Assuming that the negotiations have concluded, I can send this agreement out for approval now. I can send it for deviation approval, but here we have configured the business approval. Fatima, who's our legal approver, she will get a task on her task list. Here you can see I'm logged in as Fatima, and on her task list, she gets a task assigned to her. She also gets an email notification. From there, she could come to this agreement. She has all the required information in order to, approve or reject the agreement. Based on the data that she decides to approve, she click on approve and gives the comment for approval. With Fatima's approval, the status of the contract is set to approved, allowing me as a contract manager to send out this agreement for signatures. You can see the seamless experience here. We are showing the Adobe screen wherein the contract manager can personalize the message to the signatory. You don't have to log into a local, Adobe Sign and send the agreement out from there. You can do it right from here. Now that I've sent it out, you can see the status is changed to, Ruby, awaiting signatures from Ruby. Ruby gets an email from Adobe to the signature. She signs the contract classically in eSign Adobe. Similar to Ruby, the status will show that it is pending with an internal signatory, which is John. John will also sign as Ruby did, setting the contract as executed. Once all the signatures are done here, you can see there is a purchase agreement number down here. The user can click on it and behold, everyone, this is how a purchase agreement looks like, which got created from a CLM system, iCertis. You can find all the data that we keyed in onto the ICI site correctly getting reflected here. You can also do your subsequent, operation, downstream operation, like release orders, goods receipt, invoice, and so on and so forth. Since this is an effective purchase agreement, if you want to make any changes, you can also do an amendment from ICI, which will update all this information here and continue to do your downstream operations. With that, I conclude my demo here, and I will pass it on to Rishabh for taking you through the details of this integration.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I am Rishabh Agarwal, Senior Engineering Manager for Supply Chain Management in Dynamics 365. Please feel free to connect and reach out anytime. Thank you, Vivek, for the walkthrough of the integration demo. As we have now seen the business workflow in action, let's shift gears and dive deeper into the technical aspects. Next, we will cover the following: a contract lifecycle management onboarding process, and second, high-level architecture overview and the integration details. Let's get started. Now, let's talk about the onboarding. The integration with external contract lifecycle management systems requires your Dynamics 365 supply chain management environment to be on version 10.0.42 or later. This feature is currently in public preview with version 10.0.42 and will be made generally available starting with version 10.0.43, where it will be enabled by default. For environments running on 10.0.42, you will need to manually enable the preview feature, integrate with external contract lifecycle management systems in the feature management workspace. Upon enabling this feature, you are ready to proceed with the integration setup. The setup involves connection status, which would ensure the connection between the Dynamics 365 supply chain management and external CLM systems is active. Second, external navigation, which would ensure synchronization between the external CLM system workflows within SCM. Once these configurations are complete, you are all set to kick off the integration process. Let's take a closer look at the architecture that supports the integration with external CLM systems. This framework is designed to provide seamless data synchronization and flexibility for integration with external systems. The key components are: first, OData entities. We expose data through OData entities which external CLM systems such as iCertis can consume. These entities facilitate data synchronization which external CLM systems consumes to read and send data. For instance, the CLM-specific entities created for the connection updates allow external systems to send updated status information back to Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations. Second, customizable workflow logic. The business logic governing the workflow updates is highly customizable. External systems can define these processes based on their specific business requirements. This ensures flexibility in how the integration aligns with the organizational workflows. Third, data transfer mechanisms. For data transfer mechanisms, we have two methods. First, we'll deep dive into OData. OData are ideal for synchronous data exchange and low volume transactions. External systems can use OData endpoints for real-time communication within SCM. Data Management Framework DMF REST APIs. These APIs are designed for asynchronous and high-volume data operations. They are particularly suited for syncing master data between external CLM systems and SCM. The framework's modular design ensures that the organization can scale their integration capabilities while maintaining the robust data synchronization and operational efficiency. Over to you, Matthew, to cover integration on NDA flows.
So here are my contact details. So feel free to contact me via email or connect with me on LinkedIn. So, and thank you, Rishabh, for this nice introduction on the integration. So in this part, I will show you with a nice example of how you can integrate finance and operation with a first or third-party CLM systems. And I will take an example of a non-disclosure agreement, so NDA, and I will drive you through a journey that allows you to create this application. So now let's dive into how we can integrate with the first party or third party CLM system. There are 4 main steps to enable this integration. First, defining the required setup in Microsoft Dynamics 365 supply chain. Second, establish the connection between the CLM system and Microsoft Dynamics. Third, synchronize the master data between both systems. And fourth, synchronize contract data between both systems. So for this tech talk, I will build a model-driven app that manages NDAs, and I will emphasize these 4 steps to demonstrate how it could work with the first or third-party CLM system. So I'm not a professional developer, so I'm confident that we are a better way to build this application. Let's take a look later on. So to enable the CLM integration in Microsoft Dynamics, we need to follow these setup steps. So enable the feature which I mentioned earlier, which allow you to use this functionality. Set up the CLM connection parameters to define the link between Microsoft Dynamics 365 and your CLM systems. Set up external navigation links to facilitate navigation between Microsoft Dynamics and your CLM system. For example, you can create a new contract or navigate to an existing contract from finance and operation or from the CLM system. And then set up your contract type to define the different contract types you will be using. It can be done in Microsoft Dynamics 365, but we recommend to set up in your CLM systems. So now let's take a look on how it works on Microsoft Dynamics 365. So to enable the feature, as we all know, navigate to feature management, search for private preview, integrate with external contract lifecycle management system, and then click on enable now. Enabling this feature will activate the CLM integration and allow you to perform the necessary setup steps, which we'll cover next. You can locate the contract management parameters under procurement and sourcing, setup, and CLM integration. To establish the connection, you need to configure 2 parameters and 1 optional. The connection name, a name for the connection, simply. Base URL, the base URL for action configuration and external navigation links, unless overridden by the external navigation base URL. An external navigation base URL, this setup is optional. You can also monitor the connection status here, and I will provide you more details in the next topics. In this tab, you have the ability to create, edit, or delete links to your CLM system. It allows you to navigate between Microsoft Dynamics and the CLM system. So let's explore the detail. So when creating new external links, you need to define the following. Navigation type. This represents the action you want to perform. We have 5 predefined actions: view contract, edit contract, new contract for future development, and amendment contract. In this example, we are using view contract. Navigation name. This is simply the name of the navigation link. Relative URL. This part will be appended to the base URL or the external link base URL. Action. This determines whether the app opens in a new tab or in the same tab. Key and value pairs. This can be added to the URL to help you, for example, to redirect the user to the right form or record. The value can be fixed or parameterizable. You can find more detail in our Learn portal. Then finally, you can define your different contracts. So as I said here, I will do it in finance and operation, but generally speaking, we recommend to do it in the CLM system. Now let's jump into the connection. So we offer 3 out-of-the-box APIs that enable the CLM system to interact with Microsoft Dynamics. These APIs can be used with DMF or OData. CLM Integration Service Instance will validate the connection. CLM Integration External Navigation Link will generate links to Microsoft Dynamics 365 forms. CLM Integration External Navigation Links Key Value Pairs will generate the links to Microsoft Dynamics form, pointing to the correct record. We'll discuss this one in more detail later. In the CLM Integration Service Instance, there are 2 important fields. Establishment status indicates if the connection with Microsoft Dynamics 365 has been established and displays this information in the setup form. Configuration status indicates if all required configuration have been defined and display this information in the setup form. When you update the establishment connection, the status in CLM parameter will show as connection established. When you update the configuration status, it will show as ready. And I will show you in the demonstration. So now I will demonstrate what I developed in my amazing application. So, as I said, I've start with a solution that I will share later on GitHub. So you can take some, I would say, example of what I did for this tech talk. So if I go to my CLM integration solution, so you can see that I have some apps, some tables, and so on. But here I will just show you the flow that I'm using to build the integration. So let's go into the flow. And here you can see that I have different flows, some example. And I will show you the CLM established connection. So if I click on edit, you can see the details. So it will be launched through my application. So first, I will retrieve the, I would say, parameter from finance and operation. So from my instance, so I will use the service instance API. Then I will update the record. So with this information, I will update first the connection establishment status. And I will come back and I will show you the second flow. All right. Here I will update the configuration status. So if I click on edit, it's exactly the same flow. So I will start from my Power App, my application, and I update the record. But here in this case, I will update the connection configuration status with a success. So now let's come back on first finance and operation. If I go to my procurement and sourcing, my setup, and CLM integration. So here you have contract management parameters, and you can see here the connection status, so it's not started. Now let's jump into my amazing application. So as you can see, it's very nice form. So now let's move to the CLM setup that I did in the application. So here I have 2 buttons, establish connection and CLM configuration. In the real life, you have to do all the setup, but here it will be a little bit quicker. So I click on establish connection. And if we go to now to finance and operation, and I refresh this screen, so is that you can see that the connection now is established. So this is the first step before the connection is ready. So now let's move to the application again and update the CLM configuration. So I did all the setup in my application. So now I can click on CLM configuration. So let's click on this one. And if I come back to finance and operation and I refresh again, you can see that the status is ready. So now all my applications are well connected. So let's move to the next part. The next step is to synchronize master data between Microsoft Dynamics 365 and the CLM system. You can see a list of entities that may be required. I won't list them all, but it's recommended to manage contract type in the CLM and all other entities in Microsoft Dynamics 365. We are providing out of the box the APIs, and you can refer to the tech talk on integration to define the appropriate pattern. Depending on your requirements, you can define which entity needs to be synchronized. For my demonstration, I only use a few of them as I'm just managing the non-disclosure agreements. So I will use legal entities, currency, vendor payments, term of payment, contract, and vendor veto. And I took a look to shortcut for CLM contract types. So now let's see how it's synchronized. I have synchronized master data. So as I said, I took a little shortcut. So I will use, GRI, because it's one of the easiest way to synchronize the Power Platform or your Dataverse environment with finance and operation. And for contract type, as I said, I use a shortcut. So we will use a virtual entity. So I will show you these two cases. So let's go to system administration first and data management. Here I will go on GRI. So you should assume that I have installed all the right solution. And here you can see that I have my already synchronized some of, the data entities. So vendor groups, vendors, customers, contacts, and so on. So it will help me to synchronize the data between Dataverse and finance and operation. So if I go to my application now, you can see that I have synchronized my vendor. So it's directly synchronized from finance and operation. So as I said, this is the easiest way to do it. So now if I come back and I show you how I can enable the virtual entity for contract type. So I will move to settings, select advanced settings. It will open a new form. And here I will go to advanced search. And on advanced search, I will select available finance and operation entities. As I don't want to show you all the entities because we have many, so I will select part of them. So I will select the one that contains CLM. And you can see already here the list of all the CLM entities that are available. So I will select the contract type entity that I want to synchronize with finance. So I will select visible. So to allow me to, have virtual entity enabled in my Dataverse environment. I can click on refresh if I did some modification in finance operation, for example. So I will save. And I will come back to my application. So let's come back on the Dataverse environment. So here I already point to the table. So here you can see that I have three records, so complex, ND, and simple contract. And if I move to finance and operation, if I go to procurement, or I go to procurement and sourcing, CLM integration and contract type. So we have the same record. So I have enabled the virtual entities. So it's conclude this demonstration. So now let's move to the last part. So finally, we need to synchronize contract out of the box. We support three scenarios: creating a non-disclosure agreement, NDA, creating a purchase contract, creating contract amendment. And to support these scenarios, we provide the three APIs: CLM integration contract, allow manipulation of contract in Microsoft Dynamics 365, CLM integration purchase agreement, allow manipulation of purchase agreement, and CLM integration purchase agreement lines, allow manipulation of purchase agreement lines. Additionally, we provide entity to your contract in Microsoft Dynamics for your CLM system. So let's see the final part of this demonstration. So here, again, I will go to my application and I will show you two flows, one for the creation and one for updating. So here I will go to the object. And on the cloud flow, here, if I go to my cloud flow, so here I have some example, but I will go to create contract. And I will edit this one. So this one is a little bit different from the previous one. It's based on the data event, based on the, CLM table that I have created, so for contracts. So here, when I added a CLM contract, it will launch this flow. So I will retrieve some information from finance and operations, for example, the company, the vendors, and the contract type, and I compose, I would say, all the contract status because it's, I would say, based in UB. Then I will create the record. So for that, I'm using the API for CLM integration contracts, where I can fill all the relevant information. So the ID, the expiration date, the numbers, and so on, and the status. So here I have all the information. And from this record, I have executed an action, also to retrieve the, I would say, the URL from finance and operations. So I'm using the generic contract detail from URL by contract ID. So to retrieve the URL to point to finance and operation, write the right record and the right form. Then I will update this information in my contract. So this is the easiest way that I found to do that, but I'm pretty sure here we have a better way to do that. And then I will show you this next flow. So next flow is just to update the status. So I will select the CLM. So this one, it's also based on the data event, but here it's just for updating the CLM contract. And I will just update one information, the contract status. So here, again, I take a little shortcut. I will also use a virtual entity, so it's a little bit easier. And I think this is the best way to achieve this, I would say, this goal. And here, I will just update, based on the, I would say, contract, my virtual entity, I will just update the status. So now let's move to the application. So here I can see I have some forms, but I have created some CLM contracts. So it's very basic application with some few forms. So I will go to CLM contracts. I will create a new contract. I can define the ID. So CLM, the other one, for example. I will select the company where I want to interact, so USNF. I will create the contract name, so my first contract. And as always, I will put a nice description. I will define my effective date, so 1st of Jan until end of January 25. I will use the famous Acme vendor. So as I know the account, I will type directly. I will select my integration contract types. So here I will select NDA. And then you can see that the FOL is not, I would say, populated. So I will save the record, so it will trigger the workflow. So I will refresh. And when the workflow is finished, you can see that the FOL is populated. So here it will help me to navigate directly to finance and operation. So if I click on the link, it points directly to the right contract. So here I have two options, view and new, that I already created. And if I click on view, it will go back to my application on the right form, with the right contract. So now let's take a look, and I will update just the status to approved and save, and to trigger my flow again. So let's go to finance and operation to see if the status is approved. So yes, it's approved. So now you can see that you can navigate from finance and operation to the CLM system, and from the CLM system to finance and operation. So thank you for that. Now over to you, Amar.
Thanks, Matthew and Vivek for the demo, and Isha for elaborating on integration architecture. Now, let's quickly go through the resources for this feature. Resources for the CLM integration we have captured on this slide. Documentation have been updated on this feature, and you can review the same here. In addition, please also find the YAML channel for procurement and sourcing area, under which this feature have been added. For any features feedback, we would like you to log the details on the ideas portal, and based on the popularity of idea, we'll have them integrated in the future roadmap. We have also added relevant resources from iCertis. You can learn about the collaboration between iCertis and Microsoft on this page. We have also plugged in the app source page for iCertis. And if you wish to join iCertis monthly demo, you can visit the page here. With that, I'll open the forum for Q&A. For now, I don't think we have any open questions. Just now we have one. So I'll maybe put it across and we'll just go through that. So the question is, are there additional security consideration as a result of this integration?
Yep. So as part of this integration, we have considered as part of the Secure Future initiative and whatever the integration framework we have developed as tight architecture, and whatever the data entities which are getting exposed or tightly networked, and this will be part of the Secure Future framework.
If I don't have any other questions which is pending, but there are a couple of important one which I wanted to highlight. That there's one which talks about all that's one explanation so far is focused on purchase agreement in this tool that is integrated CRM to help also sales team with customer third-party contracts. So the question mostly talks about that. Would CRM contract which is handling customer third-party, can that also be part of this feature in any shape or form?
Yeah. So currently, the idea for this third-party integration framework is to support the business process areas related to source to pay, and in the as part of the roadmap, we will also be planning to consider the other areas related to sales, and also as part of the CRM.
Now we have one more. Can you throw some insight on the licensing?
Yep. For the iCertis contract intelligence, we need to have an additional license from iCertis in order to enable this third-party integration. From Dynamics 365, and no additional licensing is required.
So now the question is, can we manage cross or multi-company framework contract that are related to multiple finance and operation companies?
Yeah. So currently, for the scope of this integration framework, it is not supporting the multi-company global contract management capabilities, but this is very specific to the legal entities where these contract ID and purchase agreement IDs are mapped. And definitely, as there is a need for a specific cost for a multi-legal entity contract management, then we will definitely should consider it as part of the roadmap.
All right. So I think that's about it. We have already captured the important questions in this session.
Yeah, so thank you to participating to this Tech Talk. I wish you a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and talk to you soon.